Okay, this is a recording both for myself to remind myself if I ever forget any of the stuff I just learned, or to teach anyone else who might be interested. So, I started off with creating this box, right? This is the box, nothing special about it. And then I started editing a little bit, squished it down, added some edges, and it eventually looked like this, right? This was my base, the core of the object that I'm making, which is a chair. So what I did afterwards is that thanks to the power of Houdini, allowing you to go up and down the history of your edits, I was able to make three different stubs for the legs, right? So I made this one with two extrudes, and I made this other one with a couple more extrudes, right? And then the last thing I did was I made sort of like this the backrest, and then one rest and then another rest. Now I'll make two. I'll show you why these are connected differently later. So what you can do with this, the fact that you can go up and down the history and have different versions, like different you do different things to these faces. What it allows you to do is it allows you to merge this with this or this. So that's exactly what I do here. First, I merge these two, and I'll have this chair. I merge these two, and I even merge all three together, which gets this. The reason for that, the reason how that works is up over here, this is 42, correct? And in this point in the history, it is also 42. So this is the longer one. But at this extrude, it had 42 and 45 at the bottom. So all this is doing is combining the data that at 42, this doesn't do anything past 40 past whatever is here other than the merge, right? So what it's doing is 42 gets turned into that, and they combine and they make this chair. Now, let me go into depth a little bit about the importance of these numbers on the faces, which you can turn on by pressing here. So, okay, over here. So I started off with this sort of the backrest, right? This is how I figured out how Houdini works without the videos. So at this point, this one was 52, and then I connected the bottom two for the backrest, and this turned into 50. The reason why I did that is because this poly bridge removes 39 and 43 from the array or the list, right? That means 52 gets bumped down to. And because of the fact that what polybridge does after is adds four more faces, so it adds these four. 50 stays at 50. So 52 gets pushed down to 50, and then the end of the list gets added four more. So this will always remain at 50. And then what that lets me do is lets me stretch that 50 out, and then since my last numbers that got made were 63, 64, yeah, 64 was the last one, right? So 64, so over here 64, I extrude out the 50, and this becomes 65. So this 65, 66, 67, 68, right? So you keep adding to the list. The more things you extrude, the more faces you add, the more IDs will be in your array or your list of faces or primitives in case of Houdini. I believe they're called primitives. And then what I did afterwards is that using a clip, I cut it in half, and then I was able to mirror it over, and then without much effort, I had a duplicate effect. Now, I could have just extruded both faces, but this lets me do more stuff later, like combine two different sides if I wanted to. For example, I have this one I have here. So instead of adding like these two, instead of having a little stretched out one, You'll see. Anyways, next thing I want to go over is how this happened. That wasn't on purpose. So what I did was, this is to continue on the idea that you're using these IDs and that you're stretching them out, is that over here, you'll see that this one gets stretched out. That's because at this point, this is 50, right? What I did here was that one is just, the one on the right is basically a copy paste of this one, right? So I copied and pasted it and connected it. But since in this one, I used this node instead, which at this point, it didn't have the bottom rest and the IDs were moved around. Well, the IDs, they're different. So at this point, this is 50 instead of that one, because that bottom bridge here, that cut 2 off the list to make this corner 50 has not taken effect yet. So now what this does is that this 50 instead gets extruded by the values I defined here, and then it gets clipped and then mirrored, and it sort of looks like a funny speed racer sort of chair. So yeah, that's also that's a little bit covering the importance of knowing which faces are going to be modified in the order of your history. Now, remember how you were able to merge these, the little stub and the longer one and the chair here? Well, I could also do a merge here. We have this other one I made, right? This other top rest. You could merge this with this one, the bottom legs. So now we have legs here. We got legs. And then if you merge that with this one, right? Now I have this other one. So using Houdini, you can make like, when you make one piece, depending on how many other pieces you have, you just have exponentially more and more combinations you can make. And if you plan your primitives out correctly, you know how the insides are working, how it's using the faces, you can make some really neat stuff. For example, here, I believe I might be able to, instead of using the top one here, I'll use this clip and combine it with this clip. Nope. With this. Well, this one should be, if what this did was cut off this other side. So let me see. Primitives below. There we go. If this was that, I could connect that and this would sort of hook them up together. Now, obviously, there's this harsh line here, which means it doesn't work very well. But you could, theoretically, if you planned it out well, you could make like hundreds of combinations. You just have to know what to plug in where and which faces or primitives are being affected. And yeah, this is really great for prop modeling. Now imagine you had a character, right? You could cut up the character into pieces, and if you knew which faces or which edges were going to be the seams or the points where you wanted to, for example, you wanted the top half to be zombie and the bottom half to be normal, you could have a bunch of different iterations of top half zombies, so you wouldn't have to make characters' legs over and over again. You can make different parts. You can make different pants, right? Different shirt, different whatever, different variations. And you can combine things really easy using this. And I'm assuming, I'm still learning, but I'm assuming you probably have the ability to change what, right now, these are being assigned in the order they were made. But I'm assuming you have the ability to change or swap out IDs. So this 167, I could swap it out with 164. So if I knew I had my 164 was going to be used later, I could do that, and then that would make sure some transformations or whatever I made works. So yeah, so far I'm really impressed with Houdini. I will be learning more. Hopefully this video helps you guys if anybody watches it. This isn't really meant to be a tutorial, just like a demo from a student's perspective. The fact that I'm really impressed. And yeah. See you guys later.